It was a beautiful morning. Peppa woke up feeling excited about the day ahead. Little did she know something strange was about to happen. While brushing her teeth, Peppa noticed something odd. Her reflection in the mirror seemed to move just a moment after she did. At breakfast, Peppa tried to ignore the strange feeling, but every shiny surface seemed to show something different than reality. When Peppa turned on the television instead of her favorite show, she saw herself, but different. Green, stitched, and terrifying. Peppa returned to her room and slowly approached the mirror. The reflection showed a version of herself she had never seen before. The scary Peppa in the mirror spoke, "Come and play with me. This world is much more fun than yours." Against her better judgment, Peppa reached out and touched the mirror. The glass began to ripple like water. Suddenly, Peppa felt herself being pulled through the mirror. There was no turning back now. Peppa found herself in what looked like her house, but everything was darker, colder, and more frightening. In the kitchen, her family was waiting, but they were all transformed with green skin and stitches. "Welcome home, Peppa," they said. Outside, the world looked completely different. The sky was dark, the trees were twisted, and everything felt wrong. At school, all of Peppa's friends were there, but they too had been transformed. "We've been waiting for you," said Susie Sheep. Even Grandpa and Grandma Pig had been changed. They welcomed Peppa with open arms, but their smiles were unsettling. In her bedroom, Peppa looked through the mirror and saw her normal world. "I want to go back," she cried, but the transformed family and friends surrounded her. "You belong here now," they said in unison. Peppa escaped to the attic and found old mirrors showing even more frightening worlds beyond. Slowly, Peppa began to realize that maybe this world wasn't so bad after all. She was becoming one of them. Peppa joined her family in the living room, now fully transformed and accepting of her new reality. Outside their house, the family stood together. This was their home now, and they were happy. In the normal world, Peppa's bedroom stood empty. The mirror showed the scary world, but normal Peppa was nowhere to be found. Had she chosen to stay? Listen carefully to this tale of terror, for it reveals the cursed secret of Peppa Pig's school that no one was ever meant to discover. This is the story of the endless day that trapped everyone in a nightmare from which there is no escape. It began on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday morning at Peppa's school. The children arrived as usual, carrying their backpacks and lunch boxes, completely unaware that this day would repeat forever. The clock on the classroom wall showed exactly 9 o'clock when the curse began. Peppa noticed something strange first. The same butterfly kept flying past the window in exactly the same pattern, over and over again. Miss Rabbit was writing the same lesson on the blackboard, using the exact same words, making the exact same movements. At first, Peppa thought she was imagining things, but when Pedro Pony asked the exact same question at the exact same time, using the exact same words, she knew something was terribly wrong. The day was repeating itself, and no one else seemed to notice. During lunch break, Peppa tried to tell her friends about the strange repetition, but every time she spoke, they would respond with the exact same words they had used before. Their eyes became glassy and vacant, as if they were sleepwalking through their own lives. The playground equipment began to move on its own. The swings would swing back and forth with no one on them, always in the same rhythm. The slide would make creaking sounds at precisely the same moments. Even the clouds in the sky followed the exact same pattern. As the day progressed, Peppa realized she was the only one who retained her memories from each loop. Everyone else was trapped in their scripted actions, saying the same things, doing the same activities, completely unaware of their imprisonment. The school building itself began to change with each repetition. The hallways grew longer and darker. New doors appeared that led to rooms that shouldn't exist. The windows showed different views each time, sometimes revealing landscapes that were impossible and terrifying. In the art room, the children painted the same pictures over and over again. But with each loop, the paintings became more disturbing. Happy family portraits transformed into twisted nightmares. Bright flowers wilted into dead, thorny vines on the paper. The library books rewrote themselves during each cycle. Stories that once had happy endings now concluded with horror and despair. The characters in the books seemed to be aware of their repetitive fate, pleading from the pages to be set free from their endless stories. During music class, the same song played repeatedly, but the melody became more distorted with each loop. The instruments played themselves, creating haunting harmonies that echoed through the empty corridors long after the music lesson had ended. The cafeteria served the same meal every day, but the food began to rot and decay while still being served. The lunch ladies continued their routine, smiling as they handed out spoiled sandwiches and sour milk, completely oblivious to the horror they were distributing. Peppa discovered that the school's basement held the source of the curse. Ancient symbols were carved into the walls, glowing with an eerie green light. In the center of the room stood an old grandfather clock that had stopped at 9 o'clock, the exact moment the loops began. She tried to break the clock, but her hands passed right through it as if it were made of mist. The clock existed in a different dimension, controlling time itself from beyond the physical world. Peppa was playing in the attic when she discovered an old, mysterious mirror covered in dust. The mirror seemed different from any other she had seen before. As she wiped away the dust, strange symbols appeared on its surface, glowing with an eerie green light. Suddenly, the mirror began to ripple like water, and Peppa felt herself being pulled toward it. Before she could resist, she was sucked through the mirror into another world. This world looked exactly like her own, but everything felt wrong and twisted. The colors were darker, the shadows deeper, and an unsettling silence filled the air. Peppa called out for her family, but her voice echoed strangely in this empty dimension. She walked through her house, but it was not her house anymore. The walls were covered with strange markings, and the furniture looked old and decayed. In the living room, she found her family, but they were not themselves. They had become something else, something terrifying with green skin and stitched wounds. Her mother looked at her with hollow eyes and spoke in a voice that was not her own. George sat motionless in the corner, his toy dinosaur now a grotesque creature. Daddy Pig stood by the window, but his reflection showed something monstrous. Peppa realized she was trapped in a nightmare version of her world, where everything she loved had been corrupted. She tried to run back to the attic, back to the mirror, but the house seemed to shift and change around her. The hallways stretched endlessly, and doors led to rooms that shouldn't exist. Finally, she reached the attic, but the mirror was gone, replaced by a wall of darkness. As she turned around, she saw that she too was beginning to change, her pink skin slowly turning green. The nightmare dimension had claimed another victim, and Peppa's screams echoed through the twisted reality as she became part of the horror she had discovered.